Welcome to The Prisoner's Dilemma, a show where we watch and talk about the 1960s TV show The Prisoner. I'm Brendan, and with me is a role player who's learned how to weaponize bleed, Matthew.
Yes, hi, it's me, Matthew. Hey, Brendan.
You wanted to see me?
Yes, of course I wanted to see you. You're hired.
Oh, thank you. When can I start?
Now, immediately.
Oh, terrific. Sir, there's a dead body in this grocery store.
Don't worry about that. Let me tell you, there's a secret.
There's a secret aside from the dead body, sir?
Yes, state secret.
You know what? I'm not so sure that I want this job.
It's too late for that.
All right. Well, I guess I'll get to work hiding that body, sir.
You're an American hero.
And scene.
Yay. We did it.
All right, for this next one, we're going to need some audience prompts.
I want an occupation and a funny vegetable.
I want a funny vegetable. No, like a funny vegetable.
No. Like a funny vegetable.
Like name a good one.
Like, yeah. Not a bad one. Come on.
Take off your shirt.
Parsnips? Get out of here.
This week, we watched Once Upon a Time.
Yeah.
In many ways, it has all been building to this.
Mm-hmm.
This episode sees the return of fan favorites number 2, Leo McGoohan.
Woohoo!
In the penultimate episode of the series.
Yep.
But that was recorded right after Chimes, I think.
Yep.
Was one of the original episodes that they had planned on creating. George Markstein is still in the credits for this one.
Yep.
Written and directed by Patrick McGoohan himself.
Good old Patty McGee.
As the village enacts a sinister plot to try and force number 6 once and for all to own up to why he resigned.
That's definitely what they're after, for sure.
That's definitely what's happening here, for sure. Matthew, what do you think of Once Upon a Time?
This is one of the greatest episodes of television, I think.
Wow.
I think anytime you have two weirdos in a room yelling at each other, that's television. That's what television was meant to be.
There was literally, I was doing my research for this episode, and there was literally a 1-star review on IMDb saying, great episode if you love grown men yelling at each other. And I was like, I do. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it's a great episode.
It's all I want is these freaks to like bounce off of each other in horrible ways.
Because it's the great thing about Once Upon a Time is it's bringing together like a bunch of the strengths of the show that we've noted the whole way through. Right? Like really strong actors, right? We've got Leo McGoohan here. We've got Patrick McGoohan here. We've got a number of like our side characters who we quite like, right? We have Peter Swanwick. We have Angelo. And really good dialogue, right? We've said before, Patrick McGoohan's really good at dialogue.
We've got really, really good dialogue, and we have a full-on immersive experience dedicated to the two things that the village seems to be most wrapped up in. 1, weird super science. 2, games.
Yes.
It's time to go back to the beginning of the 7 ages of man through a psychonormative LARP, basically, right?
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, this is it is difficult to for me to compare this episode to other episodes, even of The Prisoner, given
Sure.
what it contains and how it goes about doing these things. I think it is such a bold, calculated idea for how to bring these ideas to a head. In many ways, I think this is the climax of the show. And in a lot of ways, you could say that this is part one of a two-parter, right? This
Definitely.
is very, very, very in dialogue with what happens in the next episode, the finale of The Prisoner,
Yep.
which we will not talk about today. We'll get to that in its own due time. But there's a lot going on here that I think is so unique and so standout, and only works because of the particular combination of talent and experience that they have making this show.
Totally.
That it works at all, and I think that it works really well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's basically a one-act play. Like, you're basically, you're sitting down in the theater, there's going to be like two performers, really, and they're just going to absolutely rock the stage for like an hour.
It is that way in a couple of other ways, too. One, we will talk about the set a little bit more after we've talked about like the episode summary, but it is very, very literally like a minimalist set with a bunch of props set up on it, right? It is very, very deliberately Playroom-esque in that way. But also, like, the degree to which these two seem to inhabit these characters for one another in the middle of what's going on. Like, I made the joke about, like, LARP and Bleed very, very deliberately.
Yeah.
Like, these two, like, number 6 and number 2, are both playing roles within the context of the episode, above and beyond Leo McKern and Patrick McGoohan. People on the crew, while the thing was going on, said to one another, I got a very deliberate quote, I can't remember from who, it might have been from Tomlin, but where someone said, if you have any time, come in and watch these two. They are no longer acting. They are number 6 and number 2.
True.
Now, unfortunately, that's not all good, because Leo McKern seems to have had a nervous breakdown on the set of this episode.
Yes.
There's, we talked when we talked about Chimes Big Ben the first time Leo McKern was on the show about how the two of them have extraordinarily good energy on screen, but the behind the scenes relationships seem to be like this weird passive aggressive sort of tenseness.
Yes.
And that comes out in the postmortem too. Like, both of them, I think, acknowledge, like, yes, something happened. McGoohan kind of attributes it more to, he had just come from a theatrical run right before this, and he was extraordinarily tired, and I think this put him over the edge. McKern has had a number of words about the way that McGoohan directs, and McGoohan gets in your face and yells at you, not merely in front of the camera, but behind the camera, in order to get you to do what you want him to do.
Right.
But then ended the segment by saying, yes, we're great friends. Terrific show. Which, that could just be the, like, well, we're in the same industry and I need to keep getting work. So I need to end this by saying something nice. But, like, clearly some real tension there.
Yeah. Patrick McGoohan tells a story, or would in later years, of after recording a particularly, like, tough scene, and they were, like, on break, he went to Leo McKern's, like, dressing room because he wanted to compliment him. He said, "Oh, this is going so well. You're doing such a good job." And Leo McKern was like, "Go away. I don't want to see you anymore." Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And Leo McKern recounted that exact same sort of thing, and then ended it by saying, "We were dear friends."
Well, it's interesting, and the other thing going on in this episode, we're in, like, development chat time. This is a wildly autobiographical episode for Patrick McGoohan.
Yeah, McGoohan went on record saying, this was my favorite episode. It was a little autobiographical, so I'm glad I got to get it out of my system.
Yeah, sure you did, buddy. Yeah. But like, we can see in this episode as well, like, a thing that lots of people would report in Patrick McGoohan, with interactions with Patrick McGoohan, is that Patrick McGoohan liked to test people. So he would like to, like, get angry and in your face and shout at you to see how you'd react. And if you responded well to the test, then he'd, like, know he could trust you, right? Or trust you with him.
Yeah, what a cool guy.
I mean,
he talked about boss.
He's talked about this in quotes of like when he would get home to his wife, they would just shout at each other for like a long time, and they had a very loving relationship. And so like, you know, it's a kind of energy that clearly didn't work for everybody, but like could work for some people.
Sure.
Yeah. What a guy. What a fascinating guy.
What a dilemma.
Hey, he said the name of the show. The gack is coming from the ceiling now. Oh no, it's too hot. It's hot gack. He's dying.
I didn't even know they made hot gack. Oh, it's spicy. It's burning my tongue.
Oh man, spicy gack. Do you remember? This is nothing. Do you remember when they used to make the weird custom ketchup and mustards that would be like green, Nickelodeon green?
Yes, I do remember that.
Man. This is nothing, as I said. It's just a tangent. You got
anything else you want to get out of your system?
This is going to be the whole episode, man. You know what it is already.
Terrific. Well, if that's going to be the episode, why don't you tell us what happened in Once Upon a Time? A name that should have been attached to the girl who was death, since it was actually a fairy tale.
We'll get to it. This is my shortest summary, which really, I think, says something about the episode. The penultimate episode sees a return of Liam McKern's number 2. He has a series of angry phone calls, leading to him getting approval for something called Degree Absolute. Number 6 is quickly hypnotized and brought to the embryo room, in which he is made to play out his life following Shakespeare's 7 Ages of Man, with number 2 serving as an authority figure. First as his father, with 6 as a child, then as a series of teachers at school, then a bank manager, and so on. Throughout, 6 refused to give in or answer the question, why did you resign, until he snaps, yelling, for peace of mind. By this time, 6 has worked out Degree Absolute and managed to turn it around on 2. He traps 2 in a cage and yells at him to die, at which point 2 promptly follows orders and does. 28, the supervisor, arrives asking 6 what he desires. 6 replies, number 1, and 28 in turn replies, I'll take you. The episode ends with a quick pan over the embryo room, and for perhaps the last time, bars slamming shut over an image of number 6's face. What an episode.
What an episode. Do you... I knew... Okay. I've joked before about not being able to remember things, like what happened in the show that I'm doing a podcast about. And I knew, in my mind, I remembered Leo McKern's going to be in this in one.
In my mind, you're smart.
In my mind, you're Leo McKern. And yet still, when I saw him coming up the dang man elevator, I popped off. I was like, dang, it's him. It's my guy.
Yeah.
And they do a really good fake out, because they start in the number 2 room, and the chair is facing away from you where number 2 sits, and it turns around and it's dang Rover sitting in his chair.
Yeah,
like
he's
a dog sitting somewhere he's not supposed to.
It's exactly the note that I wrote down as well. It's really good. I like it a lot.
Hey, Matthew.
Yeah, what's up?
Do you think when number 2s fail, they get turned into Rovers?
I don't think so. Just because number 2 clearly, Leo McKern's number 2 clearly takes this as a threat of like Rover being in his chair as a threat. I mean, maybe you're right though. Maybe he's like, I'll be Rover-fied.
I mean, you can still get got by Rover, right?
You could. Anybody could get got at any time by Rover. One of the really interesting things I thought was that we actually start on a like close up of that big screen in number 2's office, and it's curtains, like a stage curtain.
Yeah, differently than ever before.
Which opens to reveal the lava lamps, right? The lava lamp screen that we know and love. But I really like that it starts on a stage curtain opening, because it really is like, hey, this is a stage play, right?
Right. And then the first person we see is Angelo.
Yes.
Angelo, who has been a constant presence and who is going to be with us through to the end.
He's getting breakfast.
Leo McKern's not having it. He wants his coffee and he wants nothing else. He's not happy about what has gone on here.
But why he's unhappy is not clear at first. He's just unhappy. He's just yelling at Angelo.
There's a lot of yelling.
There's a lot of yelling.
Yeah.
He brings up his red phone, the red phone. It's not the giant red phone, but it's a pretty big red phone. And this is when we get that he's clearly taken Rover being in his chair as a threat of some sort, right?
Yes. We also get maybe one of the most we get a little treasure for folks like you and me. We get perhaps the most deliberate, specific mention of timeline that the show has ever mentioned, which is that Leo McKern was number 2 at one point in the past and then left and now has been brought back.
Yes.
It is not, this is a direct sequel to the previous episode that he was number 2 in. It is,
definitely
no, he was here and he was gone and now he is back.
Right. Because he's saying explicitly, like, you know, you brought me back, we do it my way, right? Yeah. I this whole opening is great. Love Liam McKern here. Love Angelo here. All stoic. Love Rover in the chair. It is a little bit, the surprise is a little bit ruined if you actually did watch the opening credits, because McKern is there and does say the new number 2.
Yeah, but I forgot about that already.
That was like 3 minutes ago by the time you got there. Yeah, I really love this opening a lot.
Really, really enjoy McKern like walking up to the big screen as it starts monitoring number 6.
Yeah.
And he just stands in front of it like monologuing again, as if it's a one-act play or something like that, where he is like basically just like yelling as if there is someone there that's not, because there's not, because it's just a projection.
It's really good. And he starts saying this really interesting thing. I don't know if you noted this. He starts saying, "Why do you care?"
Yes.
How'd you take that, Brendan?
Who's he talking to here? Because it looks as if he's talking to number 6, right? He's abstractly saying, "Why do you care so much to not give up your secrets?"
Potentially. I mean, he does literally call him up and just he brings the phone. He says, "Number 6." The phone rings. 6 picks it up. He says, "Why do you care?" And he says, "You'll never know."
Right. Do you take it some other way?
I think there's a bunch of ways you can take it. I mentioned this for Free for All, but I think like Free for All, this thing is dense. This is a dense text, right?
Right.
This, like Free for All, is one of the reasons why The Prisoner as a series has such a longevity to it, right? Why you can dig into it. And so I think you can take it in a number of different ways. I think you could take it in the way you mentioned of like, why do you care not to reveal your secrets? But there's other things too, like why do you care to try to change the village, right? Why do you care for others, right? There's going to be a big thing in this episode, a big like theme of this episode is protecting other people, right? And it's ambiguous in a way that affords these different readings in a really, I think, really fun and productive way.
Sure. You could also, if you wanted to reach or think about things that we don't necessarily already know, think of it not as yelling at number 6, but rather yelling in abstract at number 1, saying, "Why do you care so much about getting number 6 on your side?"
Sure. Yeah, I really like that as well. And what a funny thing for him to then call out number 6 about that.
Yeah.
What a weird guy. First thing about McKern, he's a weirdo. You're kind of a funny fuck, aren't you?
I'm not normal. I'm from Australia. I do things a little differently.
There were some preps in the yard. I've put up my middle finger at them. He does do that in about a second, though.
He does.
It's really good. So then we get the only scene of McGoohan out and about in the village, which was not actually filmed at the village because they're doing the distance shot they really like to do. This is our only scene, really, until the end of 6 in his right mind. And I think it's a really interesting one. It's this one where he goes up and confronts the guy and just says, "How?" Which is, I don't know about that. But then just starts like asking him his number and listing up from 1, right?
Yeah, the guy says, "Don't do that," which I take to mean, hey, don't do racist American First Peoples impersonations.
Yeah, that wasn't great.
It's weird.
So what did you think was going on in this scene, Brendan?
I think the only thing that I really can get out of it is that it sort of reestablishes for the viewer number six's discontent with the entire I am not a number system, right?
Sure.
Like not discontent with the I am not a number. It is reestablishing that he has no patience for this entire idea of identity as numbers or being addressed as a number, and he wants to needle people in such a way that they become uncomfortable with it as well.
Totally. I think that's a very fair way to read it, and I think it's a very common reading from fans, right? But it's kind of interesting.
I'm kind of the voice of the zeitgeist in a way.
No, you're a genius.
I'm the only true individual, actually.
In my mind, you're a friend. So that's true. But there's some other interesting stuff going on here. So for one, do you recognize the actor who he went up and talked to?
I recognized him, but I couldn't place him.
So this is John Casabon, the guy with the umbrella. He was previously the man in the cave who made the drugs for Free For All.
Oh, okay.
So we've talked about this before, right? Of like, the village does reuse people and it puts them in different roles, right? Sometimes just clearly it's a different character, but sometimes explicitly the same character, and sometimes it's ambiguous. And so there's this way of reading this as him going up to this guy to confront him because he's like, hey, I remember you. You're the guy who brainwashed me to run for two's office.
Yeah, could you read how instead as like, this is a real reach, but like, oh, I remember you. You're the guy that got me. How are you going to get me this time?
Or even like, how do I know you, right? If it's like an unclear thing, right? And
that's true. He asks, hey, what's your number? Right? He's
exactly.
trying to figure out like, hey, where have we crossed paths before?
Exactly.
I don't know that would work necessarily because number 6 has known so many number 8s.
Yes. I mean, we never get a number for this guy. His little like shawl or whatever is blocking it anyway. But so that's one thing that's kind of interesting to think about, right? And like is non-obvious unless you're a freak like me and you're like actually going back through these things.
Right.
But I think the thing that's really interesting is if we take a look at like Six's character and like Six's personality throughout the series, because he started super like aggressive confrontational.
Sure. Yes.
Getting into fistfights, running all about the place, yelling at people, etc. And then by the time we had hit Chimes, we had mentioned before, like he's very well adjusted in the village. Like he's withdrawn, but he's like calm and collected. Right?
He's not going out of his way to cause trouble necessarily. Not unless people cause trouble for him to begin with.
Right, exactly. And we, I had made my argument about how this is a guy who's traumatized by, the events of Free For All and so on and so forth. But you don't have to necessarily buy that to have seen, there's been a change in this guy's affect, right?
Right, yeah.
But now we're here, and in production order, they did just do Chimes. So it's not like Patrick McGoohan is like, having just come in from Arrival or Free For All or something, he's like, yeah, I'm punching number 6. I'm punching all the time, right? Or like, and even just in the last scene with number 2 calling him, he was like, you'll never know, in his like classic sort of cool guy Bond phrase, right?
Right.
This is very different. This is
number 6's classic phrase, you'll never know.
I mean, kinda. But this is very different. He comes up and he confronts this guy, right? And so I think there has been a change here. And one of the ways you could read this is that this is like a change of when Patrick McGoohan was acting this out, whatever happened between Chimes and the end, right? Like whatever tortures they'd put him through has taken him from withdrawn back to be confrontational again.
Sure,
right?
Yes. Where he's become prickly and more paranoid and more...
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that actually fits really well. I think he did a good job of like predicting where he'd be, right? If we think about like before this being change of mind and things like that, right?
Yeah.
So I think this is actually a really cool instance of McGoohan thinking ahead to be like, okay, what's the arc that 6 is going to be on by the time I get to this scene, and how can I show that off really quickly?
Sure. I can see that.
There's not enough here to like really say one way or another, but I think it's an interesting little like way to think about characters' arcs.
Sure.
And here's where we get the big call. We go back to McGoohan, and he says, it's got to be degree absolute, that thing we all know and love.
We get a really good, a brief montage of him of
Yes.
number 6 up on the big screen of clips from past episodes throughout the show demonstrating who he is and what he's all about. We see bits from Free for All, from Chimes of Big Ben, from Arrival, etc.
Yeah, we explicitly get the bit in Chimes of Big Ben of him saying, I'm going to escape and then come back and wipe this place off the earth.
Yeah.
Another potential answer of like, why do you care? Why do you care to do that? Like, why don't you just leave?
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And they man, there's some great lines in this. There's the great line of like, I am a good man. I was a good man. But if you get him, he will be better. You don't like it?
No. I'm agreeing. It's just, there's the dialogue here and the way that McGoohan sells it. Like we've had other number 2s that we've liked, but I don't know that we've had anyone like McGoohan who could sell the tragedy of this, of someone who, for whatever reason, is willing to do the job that he has been given to such a degree that he understands he is risking self-destruction.
Yep.
Because the payout of it is worth it to him.
I mean, we remember from Chimes, McGoohan too is a true believer, right? Like he said in Chimes, hey, I'm a prisoner too. I went through the same thing you did, and I've bought in. I believe the village is the future.
Yeah.
Right? He's such a company man that he is willing to let himself die for 6.
Totally.
It's awesome. McGoohan's incredible.
He's good.
So he gets approval, but they make him only have it be a week, which clearly is not like long enough. Like 2 reacts like, what the fuck? Like, you want me to do this in a week? You're crazy, number 1 or whoever.
Yeah.
And then later when he goes up to, Peter Swanwick's like, a week? Are you crazy? Can I check?
They send everyone out of the room as they enact degree absolute.
Yes. Why did you think they dismissed everybody? I mean, because it wasn't everybody. The teeter-totter boys are still around. The seesaw men.
They are. They're clearly robots. They're just like sex units. We don't have to worry about them.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Sorry, I forgot about the great robot, the overarching robot theory.
Yeah. Eventually, the entire village is going to stand up, and all the buildings are like its arms and legs.
Listen to Callus Khan, folks.
Why does everyone get sent out of the room?
Yeah, what's up with that?
I think that I interpreted this as there's everything that the village does is shrouded in mystery. I think everything that they do is very, very deliberately, you'll find out if you need to know. This is all need to know basis type stuff. And that goes down to even the most trivial details, because that aura of mystery and that sense of, hey, we've learned to trust you, we're going to let you in on some more of the trivial details in the hopes that maybe we'll get you to some of the even like actual important details later on. I think the degree absolute's existence and what it does to people is so
confidential.
It's so confidential and classified. State secrets.
Yes.
That they don't even necessarily want the people that work for them to know about its existence and how it works.
Totally.
Because there's a way to look at what is about to happen and go, oh my God, this is what we do to people? I'm not going to work for them ever again. You know what I mean? Like, if this is the sort of thing that you do to people in order to get them on side when you can't get them to do anything else, then I don't know. That's kind of terrifying, right?
Yeah, it's really scary when McGoohan is yelling Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
It's scary.
He's so
big.
loud.
He's in my house.
He's Australian.
No.
God, no. I hope he doesn't start doing Jack and Chill. Oh, no.
I don't know.
Real quick, I want to go through these extras, if that's okay.
Hit me.
Dennis Plenty. Most of these are like uncredited extras who were just like uncredited extras on a lot of things. We had Dennis Plenty, Eddie Mae Scandrett, great name, Anne Barras, who actually was an extra in over 600 films. That was just like the thing she did, which is great.
Wow.
Bill Wesley, who was an assistant director mostly, including for Empire Strikes Back. And the second person to leave the room is Tony Mendelsohn, who was the first fake number 2.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, which is kind of fun.
Well, he didn't get turned into a rover. Good for him.
Good for him. But also clearly like he was a fake number 2.
Sure.
And he's just like, you're on technician duty, buddy. Whatever.
Yeah. That's pretty funny.
It is funny. So then we get this really...
God, okay. Now I'm imagining a version of this where all of the, like, people that work in the office are all the people that we've seen as number 2, and they just rotate out who is number 2.
We've talked about it before as them being like, hey, does anybody have any ideas about how to break this guy? Like, no bad ideas. Anybody in the office can get a shot.
Right. It's like all of Organization 13 is there. It's just, this is Demix's week. You know what I mean? And Xemnas is just like, I'm on the copier this week. Don't screw this up.
I mean, that kind of almost works in Kingdom Hearts. Like, we're going to we're going to Pirates of the Caribbean world. And it's like, who we got? The card guy? Sure, I guess. Yeah. Give him a shot.
That's right.
Beauty and the Beast Land? Wind Boy? Sure, whatever. Doesn't really matter.
I'm already half rover.
Holy shit. As we've said many times, you have to watch Hunter x Hunter. You have to play Kingdom Hearts. You can't understand The Prisoner. Yeah,
ideally you have one hand on the remote and one hand on the controller.
At all times.
And you've got a picture-in-picture situation going.
Or one eye is one thing, the other eye is the other. Superimposed.
Yeah, you really need that to understand the 1960s TV show The Prisoner.
It's true. Then we get
Who's the show for?
Us, it turns out.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So then we get an interesting sort of sequence, not just one scene, but sequence about brainwashing 6.
They spend a lot of time hitting them with the laser beams.
So first it's laser beams of some sort. They have Peter Swanwick in the background counting up 1 to 6, and then he gets stuck on 5, which is really cool and really
tells
thematic.
Him hold on 5, and he just keeps like
5. And that's, I really like this. Like, Patrick McGoohan could write a script, right? Because like, we're gonna get to it later, but like the back half of this episode is gonna be Patrick McGoohan refusing to say 6 and saying 5 instead.
It's good.
And you introduce it here as a count up. It's like, whoa, dang, this is good stuff.
Yeah. Now, unfortunately, the laser stuff is really just like bright light and McGoohan like sort of thrashing about in his pajamas a little bit.
Well, except in a minute, because we're going to get our evil lamp payoff, Brendan. Evil lamp payoff.
Evil lamp descends and completely engulfs his face.
It's awesome.
It's not.
Well, what makes it awesome is McKern gets in, teleporting into the room, as all number 2s can teleport.
Yep.
And starts yelling nursery rhymes at max volume at him.
He's so loud. He's being as bellicose as he possibly can. It's as if he is just trying to see if he can wake McGoohan up from whatever is going on right now, you know?
Yeah, I mean, so we should talk about what they're doing here, right? Like, because what they're doing is they're getting him into like the childlike state, right? They're getting him into baby mode, or they're regressing him to baby mode.
Yeah.
And in that extent, you can see how, even though this doesn't make any sort of logical sense, it does make a sort of like emotive sense, right? In terms of like, you sing nursery rhymes to children. They are reverting him to child. And this is also, if you remember from like Cowboy episode, I talked about in the back half, they were literalizing metaphors from earlier, right?
Right.
This is them literalizing the thing that we've talked about like when they brainwash someone, they take them back into like a childlike state.
There's even a thematic thing going on with the particular nursery rhymes that he winds up picking. Totally. All 3 of them have some sort of theme of descent going on. Humpty Dumpty going down, Jack falling down, the 1,000 soldiers going down the hill. There's almost like a chthonic quality to it.
Yeah, and what are we about to do? We're about to go down in number 2's office, finally.
That's true.
Brandon, this is such a good episode.
We're going into the underworld.
It's so good.
Hades is here. Cerberus is here.
Persephone's here. They're about to sing some jazz at us.
That's right.
I had to bring in some sort of musical theater reference. Sorry.
Is that from Hadestown?
It is from Hadestown.
Is Hadestown good?
It's so good, Brendan.
Cool.
so there, we get the scene, he's yelling at him, and then we cut to the next morning.
Because the next morning, he's woken up in number 6's place.
Yeah, he was just he fell asleep on the chair or whatever, right?
Yep.
And he opens the drawers, and we get the shot of the waitress from Arrival, right? Seeing it in the distance. And we're like back in there, and he says, "Do you want to go for walkies?" Da, na, 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 na.
Number 6 cannot wait to go for walkies.
He loves walkies. I wanted to talk here a little bit about the music of the show.
Yes.
Because this is something where we have not talked a lot about the music. We've occasionally mentioned it, particularly for things like, Hammer into Anvil, right? That obviously had a clear thing going on with the music.
Yep.
But we haven't talked a lot about it. So the music is by 3 composers primarily. So we have R. Grainer, W. Josephs, and then A. Elms. They all just did TV music stuff. R. Grainer did the main titles. A. Elms does a lot of the sort of nursery rhyme-y music, right?
Some of the stuff that is Pop Goes the Weasel for He's a Good Jolly Good Fellow themes woven in.
Yes. Exactly. So a lot of stuff in the middle is all A. Elms, right? And then we had W. Josephs, who did most of the more spy-y sort of music is how I'd roughly categorize that. And here we're getting this really fun payoff, right? Of all of these times when we've used nursery rhyme themes, this is where it was always headed.
Right.
Right? And I think there's a really cool thing that happens here, because remember back in our episode for Arrival, we talked about how McGoohan is an audience surrogate. He's our perspective character, right? And so just as McKern is bellowing nursery rhymes at 6 to get him to the right headspace for this thing they're about to do to him, we have had nursery rhymes being played at us for the entirety of the series.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing that they put this in a weird magical Toyland setting, right? That is not just for number 6's benefit. That is for our benefit.
Yeah. Oh, man, it's so good. It's so good. I'm just going to keep saying that the whole time, probably.
They take him out for ice cream.
They do. They have him in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is because he's supposed to be baby mode and so can't walk well.
I think it's a replacement for a stroller is what I think is going on.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. And then we go to number 2's office and we go down below.
We go down.
For the first time.
Angelo goes to Angelo's separate, I guess it's not, this is nothing.
Angelo has his own special elevator just for Angelo. Right?
No, that's what I was about to say, but we've seen that elevator get used plenty. It's one of the boy elevators.
It is. And Angelo's a boy, so that makes sense. If it was a girl number 2, they'd have to do a different elevator.
Of course. Maybe that one would go up.
Glass ceiling, everybody.
I'm with her.
Hashtags.
And we know number 2 sleeps down there. Earlier, so we know some number 2 sleep down there.
It's true.
Yeah.
And I mean, McKern came up from below there in the morning. So
that's right. Yeah.
There's an implication he was sleeping down there too.
Yeah. He came up here for breakfast.
He did. And so we get led through these sort of corridors into the embryo room.
The embryo room.
Which this set is incredible. I love this set. It's the one that we mentioned earlier, right? It looks like a stage play set.
It looks like a nursery, right? It looks like
totally.
Here's a place with a bunch of toys scattered around that you might be able to use, but also playground equipment.
Yes. We've got a seesaw, we've got a chalkboard, we have a caged off room with a full kitchenette inside it.
Yeah, for children.
This is, if you remember from our very first episode, Arrival, this is the caged off room that McGoohan did the press interview for the very beginning of the show.
Yeah.
We're there, baby. We made it.
Yeah, so he's had this or something like it ready to go from the beginning.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah, there's a bunch of interesting stuff in this. There's a big weird like countdown timer on the wall. There's big steel doors. There's a bunch of the stuff in this room. We'll probably talk about the individual props as they come up a little bit.
Sure.
But it looks great. The art production team always does a great job. They did a great job in this episode. I do remember, I don't have the exact quote, but I did see a thing though about the art production being like, because McGoohan wrote this episode, we should have said probably, but McGoohan wrote this episode in like a 36-hour period.
Something like that, yeah.
And the art production people were like getting scripts to like know what props they would need, like as the episode was like needing to be filmed. And so they were like having to do a rush order being like, how are we going to get all these things in here?
Ridiculous.
It's great.
McGoohan writes on the chalkboard.
He does.
He says, here's what my plan is. A, find the missing link. Something that will connect whatever his secrets are to whatever his current state of brain is.
Mm-hmm.
B, put it together. Use this regression and this rebuild back into whatever it is that McGoohan is going to put him back together as to get what number 6 knows. To find out, theoretically. Well, he doesn't say explicitly, but he's about to start asking, why did you resign?
It's true.
C, if that doesn't work out, bang.
Now, does he write A, B, and C on the board?
He does.
Is it? I thought it was 1, 2, 3.
No, it's ABC.
Okay, good. Phew, thank goodness. Imagine if it was 1, 2, 3. Imagine if we had more numerology to do.
Yeah, that'd be weird.
He does say, and I quote, and you will play our game.
Yes.
Great stuff. We also get bang. Bang is also like pop. Pop goes the weasel, right? Which we're going to get more of in just a minute.
Mm-hmm. How does he start this game?
Well, I mean, first of all, he's got to quote Shakespeare. That's important.
That's true.
And the other thing that he has...
Yeah, 7 ages of man. All the world's a stage, and all the men and women merely players.
And here's also where we're getting we're entering into the McGoohan autobiography zone, right? Because like McGoohan was a stage actor, right? That's how he started his career, is as a stage actor. Mm-hmm. And he was in many ways the most comfortable on a stage. He has a quote that I don't think I grabbed this one because I have a number of other quotes I wanted to, but in this quote, he mentioned that he was a deeply shy guy, a deeply like introverted guy. And he found that the lights of the stage were as good as like a heavy coat that he could wear around himself in order to feel comfortable. So it's like, this is a guy who feels his most comfortable on a stage, and now we're on a stage. That's great stuff.
Yeah.
There's also some ADR here where, this is important, McGoohan says, one teeny weeny week. And I just love the way he says that. So good. I wanted to actually like scrape it and make a soundbite that I could just hit and spam during this episode. I didn't do it though because of how much I care for you, Brendan.
Thank you so much. One important detail about what's going to transpire over the next half an hour or whatever. McGoohan comes in and he's like childlike. He takes a rattle that Angelo is playing with. And Angelo, just smooth as butter, like gives him the rattle and then goes and plays on a swing or something like that. Yes. Angelo's here and he is helping facilitate everything and is just like conducting everything as everything needs to be, as a perfect stagehand, basically. Bringing props into and out of the scene, and acting as an extra ought to when there's a need to set the stage. If the situation is such that, we're on a playground, he goes and swings on the swing.
Yep. It's really good. And in many ways, like, this is, again, sort of like the cowboy episode. It's the prisoner in miniature, right? Mm-hmm. Because what has Angelo been this whole time except for, like, a director of the action, right? An extra that does what he needs to.
Man, Angelo really should have been in Living in Harmony.
He really should have been. They could have had, like, the judge having a little guy or something, right?
Sure.
He certainly had a bunch of guys. Anyway. So
he could have been playing the piano.
Oh, man, that would have been good. Angelo in a little, like, striped outfit playing the piano.
Yeah.
Anyway. So now we've entered into baby mode.
It's baby time.
It's baby time. And 2 is acting as 6's father. He's sort of monologuing at him, right? He's talking about, like, I'm your father. Do I ever say anything that makes you want to hate me? And he, like, takes him to the seesaw. And 6, like, sort of is violent with him on the seesaw, like knocking him over intentionally.
Is that violence?
It's playful, maybe.
It's playful, certainly. I think he's... The attitude Six is giving off here is not necessarily one of, like, the childhood wonder that he expressed when it was time to go for walkies. He seems to be, like, still reserved and quiet, but he seems confused. He's ever since he got on this elevator and came down here to hell and has been brought into this strange embryo sac, he's sort of been, like, looking around like, what am I doing here? I'm just a little kid. I'm not supposed to be down here. This is weird. I guess I'll do what this adult who's wearing Inuit sunblinder glasses is telling me to do. And both McGoohan and Angelo are both like shielding themselves from the incredible bright lights that are like bombarding number 6 throughout all this. And so I take, there's a little bit of a mishap here on the seesaw, but I almost take it more as like baby number 6 is like not sure what's going on and still feeling out the space or how everything works and that kind of thing.
Very fair. I'm post-reading it as violence, given how some of these other ones end. Sure. But, 2 is undeterred, even though he got knocked down on his back, got an ouchie, and he transitions smoothly into school time.
Yes, it's time to go to school.
And he immediately is like a headmaster or a principal or something, right? That's the role he takes on here. And he's like yelling at 6 that come see him in his office, right?
Yes. So there's a couple of things here that I really want to call attention to in terms of just like great episode making. There's this incredibly like swift transition from like, I am your father to I am the headmaster of the school. Like there is no like, and it is done completely with costume change. And by costume change, I really just mean hats. It is literally just putting on a new hat to represent the transition from like one mode to the other. There's sort of like this school. There's a lot of one person saying something and the other just sort of parroting it back to them in order to like establish repartee as they're going through this weird like dramaturgy, basically. That's not the right word. But all they do is they put on the hats and then it's like, okay, we're in school mode. So report to my office in the morning. And then, swift as you like, they just cut to a close-up of McGoohan's face, from a close-up of McGoohan's face to a close-up of McGoohan's face as McGoohan is, quote-unquote, in his office, sitting there playing the pipe organ in front of a freestanding door, which is going to be the transition from out of the office into the office. Yeah. Especially once we get into the more like violent duel type stuff moving in. The way that the show cuts between these scenes in this very like abrupt, disorienting fashion is really affecting.
Yeah, it's really good. It's great directing from McGoohan. There's a fun bit here of what McGoohan says is like, come into my office after the break, but people hear it as come into my office, Drake, as like, you're John Drake.
Grown,
yeah, I know.
Boo,
I had to say it, Brendan. But no, it's not what he says at all.
No. Goofy.
So this bit here in the office is also a really important bit because it establishes like another clear theme that's going to be for the rest of the episode.
Sure.
Right? Which is they're not even going for the why did you resign yet, right?
Not at all. Hasn't been broached.
They're bringing up that Six's character is basically taking the fall for some other kid, right? And he says, "Hey, do you know who the kid is?" And he's like, "I'm not going to tell you," right? And there's this great back and forth of him being like, "You're a fool," and he says, "Yes, sir, I am a fool. I'm not a rat," right? And that's like that's the core of it, right? That's the thing. He might be good.
No. Finish what you were saying.
I was going to say, he might be a fool. He might do foolhardy things, and he might, continue past the point when anybody else reasonably else would stop, right? But he's not a rat. He's never going to betray, right, those that he has decided he is loyal to.
Right. What I think is this I think is what makes the episode work, is that number 6 has been hypnotized, bombarded in some way, been like forcibly through techno magic regressed to some sort of state of childhood.
Yep.
If only for a period of time where he is like
Right.
confused and muddled and capable of being like manipulated in some way. And he understands like, oh, we're playing a game of some kind and I need to play along or something like that.
Right.
And so has gone through this bit on the swing, has gone through the bit on the seesaw, and understands like, okay, we're playing at school now. And gets
Right.
brought into the room and told like, hey, I need you to tell me what you did. And if you didn't do it, someone else did. And I need you to tell me who that is.
Right.
And there was no like script. There was no preamble of like, okay, here's the game that we're going to play. There was no child telling, and then you tell me who it is that you did, right?
Yeah.
It is a game of improv. It is a game of, I'm going to establish what the stakes are. You are the student and I am the headmaster. And then we're going to play from there, right? And so number 6 is, so there's a degree to which, because of the way degree absolute works, number 2 is counting on number 6's real personality to fill in those gaps. And
Right.
it is, but it's working to number 6's favor because that's the kind of person that number 6 is, right?
So it definitely could be pure improv. But the other thing is, remember all the data they have on him,
Sure.
right?
Do you think that this is an actual incident from number 6's past?
I think it easily could be, particularly when several of the other incidents coming up are real incidents from McGoohan's past. And we already established how like 6 and McGoohan have the same birthday.
Sure.
So there's a real sense of like, these are guys who had a very similar history. I agree that like there's some improv at least, right? Because it's not like the actual headmaster was like, why did you resign? Right?
I mean, maybe. Maybe he's really good at saying no to this question because people have been asking him ever since he was a little baby.
It's possible.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that it's ambiguous, but at least some of this has to be based on his real history in his real life. Mm-hmm. So we get past this initial headmaster scene and we jump immediately to graduation.
It's time to graduate.
The Tinker Toys are back.
Tinker
Did you
Toys
know the Tinker Toys are back?
Yeah, of course. From the, I never remember the name of it.
Labor Exchange Manager.
Labor Exchange Manager. There we go.
Yep, from
Someone
Arrival.
has put them back together for the graduation ceremony. Leon McGoohan talks about what a great job they've done by managing to break the students' rebellious streak.
And then walks right up to him and just says the thing. He just asks,
"Hey,
why did you resign?
Hey, why did you resign, though?
Hey, hey, child.
Hey, graduating valedictorian. Why did you resign?"
It's awesome.
Yeah, it rules, actually.
And this is when we get our first like actual bit of violence, right? Because 6 responds and just decks the heck out of him.
He's not thrilled.
He's not. And this is when we have to get, it's so great. The shot's going back and forth between him attacking McGoohan on the floor and Angelo very calmly getting a bat to just hit 6 with. It's so good.
So this is where we get, I think, the first real bit of desperation from number 2, where he's like,
yeah.
Why did you do it? Was it secret? Was it a state secret? Was it confidential?
Yeah.
What's going on? Tell me.
And we've seen this from other number 2s before, right? Who get similarly desperate, right? Like A, B, and C number 2 was similarly like filling in gaps and was like, oh yeah, okay, whatever little bits you'll tell me, I'm gonna like way extrapolate from them. Or like change of mind number 2, right? When he's out of his mind and he's like yelling at him, and he's like, please don't yell at me, right? Anyway, so it's like, yeah, we're in that same mode of like, this is a number 2 at the end that we've seen so many times before. There's another really important thing that happens in this scene, though, Brendan, because it's when 6 attacks him that 2 loses his little sunglasses.
That's right.
And we keep on seeing 6 looking up. We keep getting shots of 6 looking up and having the lights, and we get the light as if it's like the sun or like Rover.
Yeah, the master of hypnosis Rover.
Exactly. And we hold on that. And it's here that 2 loses his little sunglasses. And he'll put them back on briefly, but he doesn't ever have them on for long after this. Mm-hmm. And it's also in this scene that he says, I'm beginning to like him.
Yeah. It's coming around.
It's so good. It's so good. But here's part of what I meant about like, we can think about each of these like stages of man that they're putting him to, each of these little scenes or settings. It's sort of like the cowboy episode, right? We're running through the prisoner in sped up versions, right? We're doing little loops. And like in each one, there's something they're trying to get from him. Like, hey, I'm your father. Do I ever say anything that makes you want to hate me? Why did you resign? Why won't you tell on this other person, right? And each one of them ends in some kind of violence. This is the most obvious one, right? When he just decks him. But, you know, messing around with him on the seesaw does lead to violent action, even if it's not intended as violence, right? And they certainly end with like yelling at each other when he's in the office, which is a different sort of violence, right? Each time we're like ending with violence.
Can you, without looking it up, tell me 7 Ages of Man?
No.
You want to take a guess?
It's the infant crawling and mewling or something like that.
That's
I don't remember if it does. I don't remember if it jumps to like the schoolboy.
That's right, number 2.
Okay. I don't remember the third one. I remember the last one as being like the old man because it's like tottering. It's like the cycle, right?
Last one is yep. He turns into a caveman again.
Yeah, he's a unga bunga.
Yep.
I don't remember the middle 4. Sorry.
All right. What happens after schoolboy? When you become a teenager, what are you interested in?
Well, Goyles, obviously.
Yeah, that's right. You're a lover.
Okay.
All right. You come of age. What do you have to go do?
Work?
Nope.
Make babies.
Nope. Think about the time that Shakespeare was writing for.
Die.
That's right. That's right. You become a soldier. All right.
Yep.
There's 2 middle ones you're definitely not going to get. The next one,
they?
the next age after soldier is justice.
What?
Because you're old enough to be able to give wise counsel, I guess.
Okay, sure.
And
you could have just said like mentor or something.
Well, they
shaky
said
boy.
justice. And then between justice and old age is pantaloon.
Oh yeah, sure.
Which is you're old enough to have stories to tell.
Well, it's also a comedy dell'arte character.
Right.
Who's like a lascivious old man, basically, which is great.
Yeah, you know.
Comedy dell'arte is a real through line in our podcast. I don't know why. Anyway.
It's because we are who we are.
That's true, actually. The show's just for us.
You're a pantaloon.
Hey.
I'm,
if anything, I'm Harlequin and you're Perot. Don't get it twisted. No, we're both Harlequins. Let's be fair.
You said it, Mr. J.
Thankfully, they have a remote hypnosis lamp.
They sure do. They give him a quick bump up. They put him on the horse.
On a horse.
They start yelling at each other.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
5.
Again, we're doing the same thing, right? We're doing the count up. It's the same stuff.
We're trying to get him to say 6. He doesn't want to say 6.
Now, this is interesting, Brendan. Because remember where we reached. We reached the point where he would use 6, but he would use 6 as a tool.
Right.
Or when he was unclear himself of like, am I 6? Like, doesn't sound right. Doesn't sound like it's like he was at the beginning, as you mentioned, right? He's sort of confused. He's like, something's off here, right?
Yeah. Your gut is Samant.
But I think you're totally right in what you were saying earlier. Like, the thing they're doing and they're having him like fill in with his number 6 personality, like his actual true personality, it's kind of working against them because the slow burn of the village, yes, they weren't able to get him all the way, but they could get him into thinking about being number 6.
Right.
And in their desperation to take him all the way, he's resisting now.
Right. There's something beautiful about the way that the show wound up getting constructed. Because as we said before, this was produced relatively early. Like this was part of the original list of ideas that McGoohan had for the show and was immediately like, okay, we're going to do this. I couldn't find anything specific about like why they wound up going with McGoohan in particular. I have to assume it was just because he liked McGoohan so much.
Yeah.
like the next episode certainly is going to be basically like, here are all the people that I like making the show with, so let's put them in the show.
Yep.
So, but the fact that this wound up being episode 16 and arriving so much later,
yes,
demonstrates a real beautiful kind of slip up of the village of we had a couple of ideas that were actually like making some good progress, but they weren't going fast enough. And in our desperation to get things done, we've reverted to some things that if we were really thinking about it, we would know would not work.
In even this one, right? Like, we got it this episode, them saying a week is too quick for Degree Absolute. You're pushing too fast, right? It's the whole thing. It's right there, right?
He even says, even before that, he says, like, you've got to let me do this my way or it's not going to work. And even then when they authorize this thing, they don't give him sufficient resources or time in order to do the thing. And you know that it's not going to work from the beginning there. The people administering the test know that it's not going to work.
Yep. And, like, you're totally right, because there's a real sense of, like, them running out of ideas, right? We joked about it in the last episode, but it's like, yeah, let's have them read to some kids, I guess. like, and if we think back to Chimes, they nearly got him in Chimes.
Sure.
In the last McGoohan episode, he almost said the dang thing if they didn't get the time wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, you just play it the right way, it would have been fine. But they can't.
Is there... Okay. Big picture time. We've talked before about this idea of like, oh, the village represents the entertainment industry or something like that, right? Of like, the village represents this desperate need to be like, McGoohan, you're going to be a star. You're going to play spies until you fall down to your grave. And after that, we're going to make you with AI and we're going to keep putting you in spy stuff. Is there something more capital about this idea of like, we are desperate to generate results, but we are not willing to pay for the results that we so desperately want. We are so desperate for the things that we want that we would rather work people to the bone with time and resources that are insufficient to the task and simply rely upon big personalities and people that are willing to work 16 hours in order to get it done, in order to get what they want.
I mean, even in production order number 6, they were already feeling the squeeze of budgets, right?
Yeah.
So this would be a very understandable thing for Patrick McGoohan to be thinking about as he's writing this episode, certainly.
Yeah. Again,
but we can also...
How long did it take him to write this episode?
Like 36 hours, like really
straight.
Fast.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like by reports, he went into a room, locked himself in for a day and a half, and then came out and said, I have the episode.
Yep, and Frank Marr just delivered him whiskey. So that's very possible. But the other thing we could think about is, like, back from Chimes even, this notion of, like, the village as, like, the New World Order. And I don't mean New World Order in the, like, wrestling way or in the, like, conspiracy board way. But what I mean is, like, the new status quo of the way the world works, right? And, you know, I think it's a very prescient thing to be saying, hey, we're not going to be giving the resources or the time necessary to make this thing, right? Like, it's the 1960s. We're not building cathedrals anymore. We're not planning at the rates of hundreds of years. We're planning at the rates of this needs to be turned around now.
Right.
Right? And if we think about, you know, the village icon, the penny farthing, progress going too fast, right? These are things that 6 is concerned with. I mean, Patrick McGoohan, is there a difference in this episode? Anyway.
Yeah.
It's great. Like, this is it, right? This is the thing. This is The Prisoner, right? Like, the fact that we're having this conversation right now, the fact that we can think about it in all these different ways, this is the show.
And the things that he is concerned about in 1968 are still pertinent in 2025.
Yeah. Even more so in many cases.
Yeah.
Anyway, then they get in a boxing match.
God, it's so good.
It's so good.
They just start rumbling.
They do.
He's the champ.
He's the champ. They put him in the corner. The boxing ring corner is the crib, which is incredible.
It's really good. It's really good.
Patrick McGoohan in his own life did in fact box at school. Mm-hmm. So this is 100% autobiographical. He was in fact like a championship boxer while he was at school.
Great.
We then jump immediately from boxing into fencing.
Yep.
And this bit's great because this is the bit where it becomes extremely obvious McKern's trying to get Six to kill him.
Explicitly. Like out loud says this.
Yes. And is like taunting him. Is like, are you man enough? Like you won't do it, right?
You're scared. And you're not willing to finish the job.
And what's the thing in the cowboy episode that he wouldn't do until the end? Wouldn't kill the kid. It's the thing. It's the thing. It's all there.
And remember, this is the guy that number 6 has said, I'm going to come back and I'm going to wipe this place off the face of the earth. Number 2 is like, do it. Sure. Okay. I'm number 2. Kill me.
Yeah. And this like, and the conversation earlier clearly sets the stakes of like, this is the setup, right? Like, I'm going to get him to kill me.
Right.
And in that moment, it will be a reverse Highlander. He'll absorb my essence and become the perfect village warden.
That's right.
So he doesn't kill him, but he does like pierce him through the shoulder such that he's wearing like a sling for the rest of the episode.
McGoohan says, I'm sorry. And McKern says, you're sorry. You're sorry for everybody. Is that why you resigned?
I mean, look, he's got a deadline. He's got it to do. His Jira board.
But I mean, if there's a moment of vulnerability to, try and pop the question, like cashing out the like, hey, you just stabbed me through the shoulder. You just stabbed me through the pantaloon. You owe me this much at least. Why did you resign?
Yeah.
Doesn't work.
Yeah.
Instead, we go to a job interview.
We do. This is another from McGoohan's own life-ism. He really did work at a bank.
Oh.
Yeah, were you not aware of this?
No, of course not. I don't know anything.
I have a really good quote about Patrick McGoohan's time at the bank.
Please.
Those bank tea breaks were depressing me. Too often I heard the words, if I had my time over again, followed by the fading daydreams of a sailing ship, building a bridge, immigrating, taking a chance. Such fragments of conversation always ended, too late now of course, but only another 10, 12, 15 years till I can retire. They had chosen security and were not grumbling. I wanted to take my chance before it was too late.
Wow.
This is McGoohan in his own life, feeling trapped. Feeling like I can't let myself become trapped like these people are trapped.
I get it. Yeah, totally.
But I think that's so revealing of Patrick McGoohan and what he was trying to do with this show, right? This is him trying to speak to those people who he worked with at the bank and say, hey, wake up. You're trapped. You've trapped yourselves in this life. You can still get out.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, that is complicated by all the ideas of like, oh, well, if you just go out and do the thing that you want to do, then no one can stop you, right? It's that libertarian individual streak of like, that Randian feeling of like, no one can stop. No, the question is not who's going to stop me. It's so on and so forth.
Why am I stopping myself?
Why am I stopping myself from doing this? Putting aside this idea of like, oh, well, I have a family to support, and so I'm going to do the safe things. I can put beans and toast on the table for my family or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, totally. 20 of these people may have perfectly good reasons for doing what it is that they're doing.
Totally.
And so on and so forth.
But, as a young man, this was him basically out of school getting a job in the bank, right?
Right.
So
he would have been 20 or 18 or something like that, right? So that's
out of school getting a job in the
thing to be thinking of like,
yeah,
I have to live my life in such a way that I don't have these kinds of regrets when I'm 35, 40, et cetera, like he is now.
Yeah, when I'm an old man.
Yeah. When I'm Justice.
Yeah. From there, just to get a little bit more of the autobiography before we jump into the next parallel. He went to work on a farm for a while, but he had basically some sort of like allergies or something on the farm, so he had to stop. But apparently, from his own writing, the farm was like one of the happiest times of his life because he was just like doing physical labor all day, right? And then from there, he had already done a little bit of like a school play type thing, because he basically was grabbed because he was like tall for his age, so he could like play somebody who was like older. And from there, he just basically like walked in to a theater and was like, "Give me a job."
I mean, if you're handsome enough, you could just do that.
That's the thing. He wasn't even an actor at first. He was like a stagehand, and he was
I see.
he basically had like a photographic memory, and so was able to like really quickly learn lines. And so he would learn everybody's lines so he could be a prompter, such that when somebody couldn't come in and do their part, he could fill in their part. And that meant that pretty soon he was getting leading roles, right?
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wish I could do that.
Well, we'll just go back in time. We'll do it all again.
It's too
10,
late
15 years.
10, 15 years, I could finally retire from podcasts.
It's true. All the money we're making. So from this, he drives away in his little car.
He gets his little car. He's so happy.
It's great. He loves his little car. And he then does the thing that I just mentioned, right? The walking in and demanding a job.
Yeah, he's getting another job. He's tired of that previous one. He's getting a new one.
And so he basically just walks into some place. McGoohan is maybe being George Markstein in this moment, or that character, right? And is like, "Hey, I want a job." And he's like, "Yeah, sure, you can have a job. And also, we're spies."
Wait, close the door.
We can't let Angelo hear about this.
Come here.
Oh yeah, what is it?
I have to tell you something.
What is it? Is it a secret?
Yes, it's very secret.
State secret?
It's state secret, yes. This is international state secret.
Oh my God.
We're podcasters.
Screaming, yelling, gnashing of teeth. And so this is,
you're under arrest.
Oh yeah, fair, understandable.
You've been arrested for podcasting while driving.
But I before we get to the actual arrest, what's happening here, right, is like in reality, McGoohan walked into a theater and demanded a job.
Right.
In this world, he walked into some sort of spy business and demanded a job. And that's how he got a job as some sort of spy or something. So there's an implicit parallel happening here, right?
Well,
the theater is the spy stuff.
Well, even more explicitly, you could say, you're Patrick McGoohan and you walk in and get a job, right? And
Sure,
I say,
totally.
"Oh, sure, you're going to play spies. You're going to play spies and you're going to keep playing spies."
Right. Sure, totally.
Yeah.
Then we get another incident from his actual life, but changed a little bit. So it's now, as you mentioned, McKern is a judge. I love McKern judge outfit.
Just to be clear, if you haven't watched the episode, here's what happens. He gets back on his little cart and he's driving in circles around his little playground. And, and now Angelo has a little Bobby's hat on and a little police whistle and pulls him over.
Yes,
and then we
awesome.
cut to McCurd as the judge.
With the Tinker Toys in between them.
Explaining how many people McGoohan killed on the road.
It's this episode is also just so funny in places.
It's so weird.
McGoohan's like, I'm good at mathematics. And he's like, "Oh yeah, 2 + 2. And he goes, 4. And McCurn's like, "Whoa."
You 4. That's right. You killed 400 people.
So
yeah, but I was on a mission.
Well, that's okay. So this is the interesting bit, because in the episode, yes, it's that he was on a mission and that's why he's speed driving. He couldn't tell him the truth because it was like state secret. In his life, McGoohan was drunk driving.
Oh.
In May 1964, he was arrested on a charge of drunk driving. The laws were pretty lax about it. He ended up spending 6 days in jail and was banned for driving for 1 year. The press coverage of this was pretty minimal.
I didn't know about it at all.
Yeah, this is just from his like autobiography, though you can also find the records elsewhere. McGoohan, this is 1964, by the way, this happened. This is only like, a few years before they're doing this episode.
This would have been like the height of Drake Mania, right? Like,
yes. And so there's a real sense of McGoohan having a real problem with alcohol, which we've mentioned before, but it's worth thinking about here in terms of where the episode is going. And it's really interesting to think about how McGoohan is reframing this incident in his own life.
Right.
He's saying, I had to do this. I had to be speeding. Or in this case, I had to be drinking. It's almost as if he's saying, of like, this was the only way I could do the thing I had to do, which is make the TV shows that are making me money, is drinking the way that I'm drinking.
Really colors how this episode's about to end.
It does.
Yeah.
And it also really colors the fact that, like, at the village, there's no alcohol.
Yeah, there's none.
Except for what we're about to get. But before that, they put him in jail.
They put him in jail. He's not happy
where he
it.
belongs. He's not. He starts yelling at two to let him out, right? They have this close-up thing. And here's where we get an incredible, it's the closest we ever get to the answer, right?
Why did you resign?
And Six says, for peace.
For peace?
For peace of mind. And he, like, runs off, right?
Right.
How do you take this, Brendan?
I think it's an answer and a non-answer, right?
Sure.
Like, you're right. It's as close as we get to an answer. Mm-hmm. It doesn't really give us any more context. It doesn't really tell us anything more than we could really extrapolate from when he comes so close to it in Chimes of Big Ben, where we get the sense that there is something about the way that the business or the industry that he's a part of that he simply cannot stomach anymore.
True.
And if we take that to be literally spy business or international espionage or some sort of government subterfuge or even just the operations of government or something like that, then we can say, oh, well, there's something about the way that the world works that he's not happy with. But if we take it to be the more representational thing of we are making you do something that you do not want to do, or
yes, that
you have to conduct yourself in a particular way in order to do, and you simply cannot live with that either because you can't sleep at night or because you literally can't keep doing this and live because the way that you're doing this is going to kill you one day.
Yeah.
Then peace of mind might be maybe a softer way of putting it, you know?
Totally. I think those are both really good readings. I think they're very fair readings. There's this other thing. Remember episode 1 of our podcast where I brought up this little theory? This little theory that number 6 came up with the idea for the village. I didn't mention who had this theory, but the person who had this theory, Brendan, was one George Markstein.
George Markstein? You mean the script editor for The Prisoner?
I do mean George Markstein, the script editor for The Prisoner, who is still on this episode, right? Now, by this point in the production, he was already locking himself in his office and refusing to come out. But there's still a notion of, like, his ideas are being bandied around. And the thing that McGoohan says, that Six says after this, after saying this bit about peace, he says that I know too much. I know too much about you.
That too many people know too much.
It's true.
Going back to this idea that precipitated The Prisoner, where he was talking to a government official and was ending his time, I think on season 3 of Danger Man, where he was saying, yes, John Drake's retired. And the government official said, well, what is John Drake going to do now? And he said, well, you tell me, what do you do with spies when you're done with them? And they said, oh, well, we look after them. We take care of them.
Yep.
We give them somewhere comfortable.
I don't want to dig deeper into this right now, but this is my final waypoint. Our final waypoint before we head into our last episode that I want to just signal before we can, like, fully talk through everything.
Sure. I'm sure it won't come up.
Probably not. The dialogue in this episode is just so good. There's the bit here of 2 saying, I'll kill you. And 6 saying, I'll die.
I'll die.
And 2 saying what all the 2s keep saying to him, you're dead. You're already dead.
Yeah.
God, it's so good. So I think it's in this scene, right? So he hands McGoohan the knife, right?
He goes and digs out a sharp knife from the cutlery bin of the kitchenette that he's in. And he passes it through the bars, handle first.
Yep.
With the blade pointed at himself.
They yell for Angelo to unlock it. They're both yelling at Angelo now, which he doesn't deserve. He doesn't deserve that. And Six falls back, and Two's holding the knife over him. And it's in this moment, Brendan, that I think he's won. He's won this game.
He's completely prone. He's like, kill me, I'm lying down.
Which is exactly what Two was doing a second ago. Right? He's flipped it. He's managed to flip their positions.
Kill me. Find out.
Yeah. Find out what happens. And he doesn't, right? We instead get a cut, right? Where now we get Angelo working a smoke machine, which is great.
Yeah, so they go from like, you've killed people in the war, yelling at each other, and that seems to give number 2 the idea of like, oh, we could play war games. Let's pretend we're in a fighter jet.
Yeah, well, they're doing the soldier, right? You mentioned it yourself, right? This is
right.
the soldier part of being, 7 Ages of Man. Another fun example where he won't say the word 6, right?
5.
He's trying... They're doing like a count to like, to drop the bomb, and he just won't do it. It's great.
It seems really difficult if you're trying to drop a bomb at a target.
Yeah, it's good. But then they're shot and they have to bail out. We get McGoohan speaking some German here, which is great. Love that.
Yeah, so here number 6 is like, oh, I'm a prisoner of war in Nazi Germany or something like that.
Yes, supposedly. I mean, so what's interesting is this scene here with like the Nazi Germany prisoner scene. This is where the script ends.
Oh,
and
early.
We think about, yes, we still got a good 10 more minutes of episode left.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just like the production script doesn't have it, or if McGoohan just didn't write it and he was just like doing it live. But I would believe the latter, given how frequently we know he improvises lines.
Totally.
So we get this fun little back and forth, and it's here where Six fully demonstrates how in charge he is, right? As they leave the scene, they're doing this like, again, the sort of thing you mentioned earlier, where they're like talking back and forth each other, like echoing each other, echolalia almost. And Six just says, "I'm hungry," and Two says, "Well, what would you like?" And Six says, "Supper."
To really illustrate it, like he is a prisoner of war in front of, supposedly a German Nazi. And he like gets up and walks out of the cell. You know what I mean? He's not playing the game anymore.
And it's also notable, it's in this conversation, this echolalia back and forth thing, this is when he finally says 6.
Yes.
He hasn't said 6 since he confronted the guy at the beginning of the episode. And now he will. And how is he using it? He's using it as a tool.
Right.
He's using it to control McGoohan.
Right. He's using it to disarm his captor.
It's so good.
And then we come back from the break and McGoohan is laid out on the table with number 6 explaining like, I figured out your game and now I'm in charge.
The positions are literally reversed, right?
Yeah.
It was 6 on this table in this same pose just a second ago.
It poses a problem if the doctor has problems of his own.
And Two says, "And I do."
Why don't you resign?
Yes! Yes! Their positions are reversed. If their positions are reversed, then logically, 6 is now 2, 2 is now 6. Just resign, bud!
Yeah.
There's a real sense here. There's only like 10 minutes in the end here, but there's a real sense for me at least that 6 is trying to save 2 at this point.
Oh, absolutely. 100% he is. He is recognized, I think, by virtue of the way Degree Absolute works. By virtue of the fact that they have had to expose so much of themselves by virtue of their game. Like, he says explicitly, like, this is the danger of the process that you have submitted to. This is the thing that McGoohan was concerned with when he was on the phone with number 1. He was like, I am a good man. I was a good man, but it's worth it to give me up in order to get this guy. And like, this is the sacrifice, right? Of like, not merely the torment of the thing, but that now he has opened himself up to number 6 getting him on side.
It's beautiful. It's awesome. And then they have a drink.
Matthew.
I have a little bit of a long quote here.
Please.
But I think it's worth reading out. This is about McGoohan, obviously. He wasn't very well at times. I think under the enormous pressure of doing this and that, I mean, he worked and worked and worked. I think he took a slug too much now and again, slug meaning a drink, particularly in the lunch hour, just to keep himself going. I would say, and I can see him now, tall and handsome and elegant, directing, and then he'd act. He'd move over and act, and then back to directing. I can see him after lunch now, just swaying slightly. Swaying. This is a quote from Griffith, right, who was one of the two in one of the earlier episodes. And it's really indicative of, like, McGoohan had a problem with alcohol, right? Yeah. He was abusing alcohol in order to, like, keep going at the sort of manic pace that he was going at. And so the fact that he writes these two people having a drink, an alcoholic drink, when supposedly, right, like, it has been only synth alcohol, only like fake, non-alcoholic drinks in the village up until this point. Mm-hmm. Something's happening here.
Yeah, and like, skipping ahead just a little bit, but like the death spiral that number 2 is about to go down is alcohol fueled.
Yes. Yes. There's also, 6 mentions no additions. Like, hey, is this spiked in some way? And who knows? Who knows if it was or if it wasn't? Because something certainly happens to 2 upon drinking it.
Totally.
So then they do a tour.
Hey, just sort of shows off his cool room,
My cool embryo room.
Which ends with him pointing out the big door and the timer attached, whereupon he realizes he has only 5 minutes left to complete the goal that he has set out to do.
Yes. And we just get like a continuous shot for these final 5 minutes, right? We get a last attempt by 2 to like try to, hey, tell me why you resigned, right?
McGoohan they literally counting down the seconds.
Yep. 2 is literally crawling on his hands and knees, like he's just begging, right?
Yeah.
Again, their positions are reversed. It's 2 now who's play acting as a baby, right? And then Angelo helps 6 lock 2 in the cage. 2 even laughs at this, right? He's like, he thinks you're in charge. Buddy, he is.
Yeah.
We've mentioned before with Angelo, right? Like, there's the cut bit in in Do Not Forsake Me, Oh My Darling, right? Of like 2 lambasting Angelo for saying, hey, you have no loyalty. Angelo is loyal. He's loyal to the role of number 2, not to individuals. And 6 has functionally taken that role now. It's really good.
It's good. Just to seed it for next time, as part of this tour, we learned that this prison kitchenette seems to have to work as like a fallout shelter kind of thing, where it has survival supplies and plumbing and such that it can last you a good while. It can move, and it is mobile, and it can last you a good long while if you need it to.
Yep.
Just a Chekhov's gun to put up on the wall.
No, that's another good Chekhov's gun to put. But I did want to just take a quick moment before we get into this final sequence, because I think we're going to be talking about the final sequence for quite a little bit. I want to talk about 2 and 6 a little.
Yeah.
So you noticed this, but occasionally I would say 2 instead of 6 as we were doing this podcast.
Yeah. You're easily confused.
Yeah, I'm famously...
Yeah.
I mean, so some of those were me just, mistaking. But some of this was intentional. 2 and 6, you mentioned from Arrival, are basically the same character in many ways. Or there's an equivalence being drawn between them, right? They dress the same way. You pointed out yourself.
They're positioned the same way in the show.
Exactly. They're the only 2, absolutes, right? There's a parallelism happening there.
Yeah.
What's really interesting, Brendan, we've been tracking the numbers the whole time, and I can, it's not a spoiler to say we're like out of number territory now. Basically, there's never been any numbers between 2 and 6. There's never been a number 3, a number 4, or a number 5. And what's more than that, a bunch of the other numbers that are most common can be thought of as combinations of 2 and 6. Mm-hmm. You get like 28, right, which is 2, and then 8, which is 2 and 6.
Right.
And then 80% of the other numbers, you can do things like this with it, right? When it comes down to it, it's just 2 and 6. That's the show.
That is the show, right? It's like, in a show that is as varied week to week as The Prisoner is, what is the one constant you can rely upon? There is a number 2 and there is a number 6.
Yep. But what's so fun is this episode says even number 6 doesn't have to be number 6. even though they don't call him number 2.
The name of the show isn't number 6. The name of the show is The Prisoner.
Yep.
And number 6 isn't the one locked in a cage at the end of it.
Yeah! McGoohan is the prisoner here. 6 is number 2. It's there, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. What an episode. The last bit, this last incredible scene. Mm-hmm. We get one last attempt, right? After joking about, hey, Angelo thinks you're the boss, we get the number 1's the boss, right?
Number 1 is the boss.
Number 6, even though he's locking 2 up, says, you're free. He's like, come on, bud. It's right there. You and me, we could get out of this. But instead he says, no, I'm number 2. Which is like sealing his fate. It's in that moment that there's no turning back.
He's too bought in.
He's too bought in. It worked. Like, McGoohan is, we joked about Dark End number 6 with the Columbo episodes, but McGoohan in many ways is Dark End number 6. He bought in. He took on the number, right? In
a way willing
that
to sacrifice himself in the pursuit of some goal of the villages.
Yes.
And here he is, bought in all the way, underfunded, without the necessary schedule, with his one accomplice no longer helping him because he has proven himself incapable of wielding the power that he holds so dear. Unable to grasp the prize. And all he has to show for it is his own self-sacrifice.
And unable to see he's not number 2 anymore. Because what's the thing that kills him? Patrick McGoohan, in a voice we've never heard him say before, says, die 6, die. Who's 6 here? Right? Like, come on, man. And how does he kill him, right? Like, we talked about this with the Cowboy episode. Like, number 6 is violent, or Patrick McGoohan, we can't even call him number 6 anymore, right? Like, his violence is conceptual, right?
Yeah, he orders an ontological weapon. He commands him to die, and so he does.
Yeah. Is that an order, number 6, right? Like, it's all there.
Now, he does start drinking uncontrollably in the last minute of his life, and the last thing that he does is take a big drink.
Sure, but this is a glass of alcohol. Like, there's no reason for this to be the thing that does it.
Oh, no. I mean more thematically.
Oh,
like,
sure, yes.
Here's a man who is so devoted to his craft that he has drinking himself to death.
Yes. Totally. Yep. Yeah. Like, now, the parallelism is right there.
Does McGoohan still have a drink in his hand all the way through to the end of the show? No, not quite. He does throw his glass on the ground.
Yes, he smashes it. Yeah. Miserable pile of secrets.
That's right.
Yeah, and I mentioned this for the Cowboy episode, right? But like every time we've gotten one of these like stories within a story, or like game within a story type things, at the end there's always this attempt to then like make the reality of the situation and the story of the situation equivalent in some way, right?
Right.
And so like what's happened here is just that. We get McGoohan taking on the role of 6, drinking himself to death in pursuit of his goals, and 2 left behind. The door opens.
Peter Swanwick.
Yep, Peter Swanwick, our favorite, coming in.
Everyone starts clapping.
Everyone stands up. The studio audience who was watching the whole time stands up and they're cheering.
No, that's the last episode, I'm afraid.
Oh my God. And he asks him, what do you desire? And Patrick McGoohan's character, I'm not going to call him number 6 at this point. This doesn't seem a point. He says number 1. He doesn't ask to escape.
He simply says number 1, and Swanwick says, not, I'll introduce you to him, but I'll take you.
Yeah.
Hey, Matthew, what's going on here?
Well, we can't talk about it yet.
Okay.
But not in massive depth, but there's people who really believe that every episode of The Prisoner is number 6 trying to escape. There's people who really earnestly think that when they think back on this show. That's not what the show is about. And like, in this episode, they brought up him earlier being like, yeah, I'm going to escape and then come back and wipe you all out. And then here at the end, when he has absolute power, he's won the game. He made them play the game with him and he won. What's he asked for? He doesn't ask to escape. That's not what the show's about.
I have some sympathy for this idea of, if you're trying to introduce the prisoner to someone,
Sure.
then you might say, yeah, he's trying to get out each episode. But
Sure.
using that as a means of like getting someone on board for the thing, right? Of like,
Sure.
because there's no way. It's difficult. Like we were coy about the cowboy episode for so long, right? Because you can't get someone on board by like laying out everything that the prisoner is about, because you can say everything that the prisoner is about and still have things left over, right? Like we haven't covered the prisoner comprehensively.
No.
I don't think anyone ever could, which is why it's so good. It's like in 5 years or 10 years, you could do another podcast and have completely different things to say about the show, right?
Yes.
Or even just like focusing on different elements of the thing, irrespective of the passage of time. Like you could do an entire thing just about the set design of this show. You could do an entire thing just about the way that it interfaces with other spy media of the period. We chose to focus in on like, what does this say about McGoohan as a creator?
Yes.
And it was about a performer and the things that he does before and after throughout his career.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. But like, I have some sympathy, I guess, simply for the idea of like, oh, and he's trying to escape the entire time. Maybe he was interested in escaping pretty early on.
Totally. Yeah.
And maybe he's planning on escaping as soon as he gets that dastardly #1.
Yeah, that's what's going to happen for sure.
Yeah,
Peter Swanwick's going to walk him down the hall. He's going to open a door. #1's there. He's going to shoot him with a gun, and then he's like, "And now I'm going home."
I've got a lot of funny quotes about that. That what you just said.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. I'm going to go kiss Janet.
I'm going to go have sex with my wife.
The end of Clue. Yeah. Communism was a red herring.
That's right.
Just to say it real quick. Remember from Dance of the Dead, that little message that we got, that #6 heard? If liberty is to be assured, we must grasp the nettle by the thorns, even if it makes our hands bleed.
It's true.
That's the path that he's been on this whole time, right? That's where he's going. It's real good shit.
It's good.
It's really good, is the thing. Oh, man.
It's a good show.
What an episode.
What an episode. Tell me, Matthew, what was your favorite thing from this episode? Your favorite standout thing, guy, scene, line? What is your #1 with a bullet?
This is really hard. This episode's so good, Brendan. I'm gonna cheat and just give it to. I'm just gonna cheat and give it to McGoohan. Like he's there the whole time, but like this is a tour de force. Like McGoohan is acting. He's acting. This is great stuff. There's a bunch of stuff in this episode that could just come off as like it is silly, but he plays it with such seriousness and like with such weight. It's incredible. What a performance.
Is there a particular McGoohan line that jumped out to you?
I think it's honestly at the end there where he's crawling and Six is yelling at him that he's crawling. He says, "Yes, I am. Look." Like,
please.
It's literally just like he's miming crawling. Just the way he's acting with his body and his voice. Like it's everything. He's so good. Mm-hmm. How about you?
So I spoke before about how I really, really enjoyed the camera work for this episode. I've really just enjoy the stuff that's going on with the camera, particularly in that sequence where it goes from rocking horse to boxing to fencing, all of that stuff where it's jumping from place to place. There's some really, really good sound work where it is just taking you through the sequence. There's a world where two old men, one of whom who's pretending to be a child, play on a playground could have been really, really tedious, and it's not.
Yeah.
And I think that the pacing of this thing is really, really well considered and well put together.
It's yeah. It is. I don't think it's unfair to say this is the best put together episode of The Prisoner.
Sure, I think so.
Relatedly, should we rate this thing?
Let's rate this show. Matthew, how do you rate Once Upon a Time?
I think this is basically a perfect episode. I'm going to give it 3 out of 3 men in the embryo room.
Likewise, I'm pretty satisfied with this one. It does everything that it needs to and more. I'm going to give it 7 out of 7 Ages of Man.
Let's go. Brendan, what are we doing next time?
Next time, we will conclude our coverage of the 1960s TV show The Prisoner, but not the podcast. So we're going to do this. I'm going to make this call right now, which is that we're going to do an episode on the final episode, which is called Fallout. And then we're going to have one final episode after that where we talk through our final impressions, our thoughts, what we think about the project overall. But we'll also answer your questions if you have any. I'll repeat this probably on social media and at the top of the next episode. But if you have questions for us about The Prisoner, about the show, about Patrick McGoohan, about our thoughts generally, about Hunter x Hunter, a show I've definitely watched, email us at theprisonersdilemmapodcast@gmail.com. All one word, The Prisoner's Dilemma Podcast, DILEMMA podcast. We'll look forward to hearing from you. We've received some really, really thoughtful emails throughout the course of the show. We cannot say enough good things about the feedback that we've gotten. Thank you so much to everyone that has already emailed. I'm not going to add any questions based on emails that we've had previously necessarily. So if you've got particular things that we would you'd like to hear us address, go ahead and send us to us now.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan.
Thank you, Cy Sweetman, who did our fantastic cover art. Find his work at cyfsweetman.card.co. Thank you, Devin, who did our fantastic theme song. Find their work at devindecibel.bandcamp.com.
Why are you saying that like you're being questioned?
I'm very good at figures.
Why did you resign?
Social media plugs. You can find our website at the prisoners you can find this podcast if somehow you've lost it at the-prisoners-dilemma.com. You can find me
if you're stuck in a room, if you're stuck in the embryo room and someone's playing you this podcast.
Yeah. First of all, thank you. Thanks to whoever that is. I think you owe some money, but thank you. You can find me on Blue Sky at brendanmcleod.com. You can find my blog at brendanmcleod.dev. Matthew, where can people find you?
Matthew Guz on Blue Sky.
Spectacular. I think that's it for us.
I think that's it. Brendan?
Matthew?
I'll be seeing you.
Not if I see you in the embryo room.
No, yeah, where?
Not if I see you first.